Welcome to Daily Elder Advice, a channel dedicated to every older adult who refuses to age quietly. Here, we don't just talk about growing older, we talk about growing wiser, stronger, and more empowered. If you're in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, and you're looking for real answers, real stories, and real strategies to live a healthier, more meaningful life, you found your people. This video is not just another list. It's a science-backed, heart-led journey into reclaiming something that too many of us have lost with age: peaceful, restorative sleep. And we're not going to suggest pills, gimmicks, or shortcuts. What we'll explore are 5 powerful, natural foods that doctors now recognize as legitimate sleep enhancers, especially for people over 60. We believe aging isn't a slow fade, it's a transformation. And every day you make a new choice, you shape how your story unfolds. So let's begin. Insomnia isn't a nighttime problem, it's a full-body disruption. And it's one of the most common and misunderstood challenges of aging. According to research from the National Institute on Aging, nearly 1 in 2 seniors experience chronic sleep disturbances. But this isn't because sleep becomes less important with age. In fact, it's the opposite. As the body ages, melatonin levels decrease, making it harder to fall and stay asleep. The brain's circadian rhythm becomes less responsive to environmental cues like light and temperature. Stress hormones like cortisol remain elevated longer into the evening. The brain spends less time in deep, restorative slow-wave sleep, leaving older adults more prone to waking up during the night. Sleep medications are commonly prescribed, but they come with serious drawbacks: increased risk of falls, memory problems, morning grogginess, and even dependency. The real solution lies in understanding what your body truly needs, and that often starts not at bedtime, but at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Sleepless nights do not define your worth. They are not punishments for aging, nor are they permanent. The fatigue, the mental fog, the 3 a.m. loneliness, it doesn't have to be your new normal. This is your reminder. You are not broken, you are out of balance. And balance can be restored. You don't need to accept exhaustion as the cost of getting older. The power to change your nights lies in your hands, in your habits, your nutrition, your awareness. Every small change matters. A new evening snack, a warm cup of tea, a single piece of fruit. These are not minor actions. They are acts of self-care, of reclaiming dignity, of honoring the temple that is your body. So take a deep breath. You are about to begin a journey, not just toward better sleep, but toward a better life. And Daily Elder Advice will be right here with you, every step of the way. 1. Kiwi, the serotonin-rich sleep booster. The kiwi may be small, but it has a surprisingly outsized effect on sleep, especially for older adults struggling with insomnia. According to a clinical study published in the Asia-Pacific Journal of Clinical Nutrition, adults who ate 2 kiwis an hour before bed for 4 weeks reported falling asleep 35% faster, sleeping 13% longer, waking up 42% less during the night. Why? Kiwi contains high levels of serotonin, the key neurotransmitter that calms the brain and supports melatonin production. And melatonin, as many know, is the primary hormone that regulates your internal sleep clock. But kiwi offers more than just serotonin support. Antioxidants like vitamin C and E to reduce oxidative stress, folate to support mood stability and brain function, magnesium and potassium to relax muscles and reduce nighttime tension. Together, these compounds restore the body's natural rhythm, making kiwi one of the most powerful natural sleep aids available, without side effects or dependency. Real-life story. Eleanor's Night of Change. Eleanor Hughes, 75, was a retired librarian from a small town in Oregon. She used to say, "I can still remember every book I shelved at 40, but I can't remember the last time I slept through the night." Her sleep had been fragmented for nearly a decade. She'd go to bed at 10, wake at 1:30, 3:45, and again at dawn. Doctors prescribed her pills. One left her groggy, another gave her palpitations. It felt like trading one problem for another. She once told her daughter. Then, during a wellness session at her local senior center, a nutritionist mentioned kiwi as a potential sleep aid. Eleanor was skeptical, but willing to try. That night, she had 2 sliced kiwis an hour before bed. Nothing miraculous happened on day 1, but after a week, something shifted. She fell asleep faster, woke up only once, and, for the first time in years, she remembered her dreams. A month later, her daughter found a note on the fridge. "Don't forget to buy kiwis, green miracles in fuzzy codes." Eleanor still wakes early sometimes, but now she falls back asleep. Her mood is steadier, her mind clearer, and all it took was consistency and kiwi. In older adults, sleep fragmentation isn't always caused by stress, it's often biochemical. The body's ability to produce serotonin and melatonin declines, and the nervous system becomes more reactive to stimuli, light, temperature, even worry. That's where kiwi comes in. It works not by knocking you out, but by nourishing the system that knows how to sleep. Kiwi supports serotonin production, lifting mood and creating calm, boosts melatonin naturally without disrupting your sleep architecture, provides antioxidants, reducing inflammation linked to sleep disruption, soothes digestion, which becomes more delicate in older age. It's a layered, gentle approach for those who've relied on sleeping pills or resigned themselves to sleeplessness. Kiwi offers a bridge back to balance, and for people like Eleanor, that bridge leads not just to better nights, but to better days. If you're reading this and thinking, could something as simple as a kiwi really help me? The answer is, it just might. Because better sleep doesn't always come from stronger medicine. Sometimes, it comes from gentler choices. Kiwi isn't a magic cure. It's a message from your body that healing is possible through nourishment. Not numbing, through rhythm. Not force, through supporting your natural biology. Not overriding it, so give yourself permission to try again. Slice 2 kiwis tonight. Eat them with intention, not just as a snack, but as an act of self-care. As a quiet declaration that your well-being still matters, that your body still knows how to rest, and that every night can still be a sanctuary, 1 kiwi at a time. 2. Tart cherries, nature's melatonin elixir. When we think of foods that help us sleep, tart cherries might not be the first to come to mind, but they absolutely should be. Unlike sweet cherries, tart cherries, Prunus cerasus, are one of the richest natural sources of melatonin ever discovered. This isn't anecdotal, it's backed by hard science. A 2012 study published in the European Journal of Nutrition found that older adults who drank tart cherry juice twice daily for 1 week slept 84 minutes longer, had improved sleep efficiency, experienced less nighttime waking. Tart cherries are rich in melatonin, which signals the brain to initiate sleep, tryptophan, an amino acid that helps produce serotonin, a precursor to melatonin, anthocyanins, antioxidants that reduce inflammation and promote deep rest. This trio of nutrients makes tart cherries a triple-threat sleep booster. Especially for seniors whose natural melatonin production has significantly declined, tart cherries offer an effective, safe, and side-effect-free path to real rest. Real-life story. Mr. Glenn's return to rest. Glenn Navarro, 78, was a retired mechanic from New Mexico. His hands, once calloused from decades of precision work, now trembled from years of restless nights. "I wasn't tired," he said. "I was exhausted, but my body refused to shut down." His doctor tried low-dose sleeping pills, then herbal teas, then meditation. Nothing lasted. "I'd drift off and then, bang. 2 a.m., wide awake." One day, his granddaughter, studying nutrition at university, sent him a care package. Inside were 2 cartons of unsweetened tart cherry juice and a handwritten note. "Grandpa, drink 1 glass in the morning and 1 at night. Trust me." Glenn did. The first few nights were the same, but then something subtle changed. He stayed asleep a little longer. His mornings became clearer. His dreams returned, gentle, strange, beautiful. By the end of the month, Glenn told his daughter, "I don't wake up tired anymore. I wake up rested, and that feels like a miracle." Today, cherry juice is a staple in his fridge, and his hands, still a little shaky, but steady enough to hold a mug of tart red peace. Sleep in later life is often lighter, shorter, and fragmented, but the reasons behind this are deeper than age. As we grow older, our pineal gland produces less melatonin. That's biology. But here's the good news. We can replenish it through food. Tart cherries provide melatonin in its natural form, not synthesized or isolated. This allows the body to absorb it more gradually and rhythmically, supporting sleep without overpowering it. That's critical for older adults who need support, not sedation. But tart cherries go beyond hormones. Their anti-inflammatory properties reduce joint pain that can wake seniors during the night. Their antioxidants calm the nervous system and reduce oxidative stress. Their low glycemic index makes them safe for diabetics and those watching blood sugar. In Glenn's case, and in countless others, tart cherries didn't just help with sleep. They helped restore a sense of peace and predictability to each day. This isn't magic, it's nutrition aligned with the needs of the aging body. For many older adults, insomnia starts to feel like a sentence, an inevitable toll of age. But let this chapter serve as your reminder. Rest is not something you had to earn. It's something your body deserves. You don't need to numb your mind to find sleep. You need to nourish it. And nature, in its quiet brilliance, has already offered what you need. A handful of tart cherries, a glass of juice, a routine made not from desperation, but from wisdom. You spent years giving to others, building lives, surviving hardship. Let this be the moment you give back to yourself, not just with sleep, but with the kind of sleep that restores your soul, clears your mind, and reminds you that you're still deeply, wonderfully alive. Your next peaceful night could begin with a cherry. And that, dear friend, is a very sweet way to heal. 3. Bananas. The magnesium and tryptophan sleep synergy. To most people, bananas are just a convenient snack, sweet, filling, and familiar. But beneath that smooth yellow peel is a powerhouse of sleep-supportive compounds that can make a world of difference for older adults. Here's why bananas matter. They are rich in magnesium, an essential mineral that helps relax muscles, calm the nervous system, and regulate sleep, promoting neurotransmitters like GABA. They contain tryptophan, an amino acid that the body uses to produce serotonin, which later converts into melatonin. They are a good source of vitamin B6, which plays a crucial role in this serotonin to melatonin conversion process. A 2012 study published in the Journal of Research in Medical Sciences confirmed that older adults who increased their magnesium intake experienced longer sleep duration, fewer nighttime awakenings, and better sleep quality overall. Bananas are also easy to digest, unlikely to spike blood sugar, and naturally calming, making them an ideal pre-sleep food for those over 60. In older adults, magnesium deficiency is shockingly common, even though it's crucial for muscle relaxation, nervous system calm, and hormonal regulation. Symptoms like muscle cramps, restlessness, anxiety, and insomnia are often brushed off as normal aging, when in fact, they can stem from this silent deficiency. Bananas are a simple, natural way to replenish this mineral, without pills or complicated regimens. But there's more. Bananas don't work in isolation. Their real magic lies in the synergy between nutrients. Magnesium and potassium work together to regulate muscle tone and heart rhythm. Tryptophan feeds serotonin production, which stabilizes mood and preps the brain for melatonin release. Vitamin B6 ensures that these conversions happen smoothly, allowing for better hormonal balance. This means bananas don't just help you fall asleep, they help your body prepare for rest at a chemical level. They don't sedate, they signal, they nudge the body back into rhythm. For older adults like Darlene, whose bodies have been through years of stress, grief, and biochemical change, bananas offer more than nutrition, they offer gentle repair. There's something deeply reassuring about a food that doesn't shout for attention, just quietly nourishes you from the inside out. That's what bananas do. They don't promise miracles, but they do deliver consistency, calm, and a pathway back to rest. Maybe you've grown used to sleepless nights. Maybe you've resigned yourself to waking up groggy, irritated, or defeated. But aging doesn't have to mean surrender. Not to fatigue, not to restless nights, not to emotional burnout. Tonight, give yourself one banana, not just as food, but as an act of gentle defiance. A message to your body that it is still capable of balance, still capable of peace, still worthy of rest. In the quiet of night, when the world is still, you deserve a body that lets go, a mind that calms down, and a heart that feels whole again. And perhaps, just perhaps, that begins with something as simple and as powerful as a banana. 4. Walnuts omega-3s, melatonin, and hormonal harmony. When you think of foods for sleep, nuts may not be the first thing that comes to mind, but walnuts, specifically, are a nutritional powerhouse when it comes to supporting natural, deep, and restful sleep in older adults. Here's why. Walnuts are one of the few plant-based sources of melatonin, the hormone that regulates your internal sleep-wake cycle. They are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which support brain health and have been shown to enhance melatonin production and improve sleep duration. They contain tryptophan, the amino acid that helps the body create serotonin, which is later converted to melatonin. They also offer magnesium and B vitamins, which support nervous system relaxation and hormone balance. In a study published in Nutrients, researchers found that adults who consumed walnuts regularly experienced better sleep patterns, fewer interruptions, and longer deep sleep phases, compared to those who didn't. For seniors, walnuts are more than just a healthy snack, they're a natural, multi-layered tool for restoring hormonal balance and nighttime calm. Real-life story. Harold's last try before giving up pills. Harold Lawson, 76, had tried it all. After retiring from his job as a school principal, he looked forward to long mornings and slow breakfasts. But insomnia had other plans. "I thought I'd get more rest when I stopped working," he said, "but instead, I was up half the night, then dragging through the day like a zombie." His doctor had prescribed sleep aids, which worked for a time, but Harold hated how they made him feel. "I'd wake up groggy, confused, sometimes even dizzy. I didn't feel rested, I felt drugged." One day, during a grocery trip, he overheard two women talking in the produce aisle about walnuts helping with sleep. One said, "A handful before bed changed everything for me." Desperate, Harold added them to his cart. That night, he ate a small handful before bed, unsalted, raw, nothing fancy. He also swapped his late-night snack of crackers for Greek yogurt with crushed walnuts. It didn't fix everything overnight, but 3 days in, something shifted. He didn't wake up as much. He dreamed, and in the morning, he remembered those dreams clearly for the first time in years. "I felt human again," Harold later said, "not perfect, but peaceful." Walnuts became his nightly ritual, not just for sleep, but as a small, quiet act of hope. Many seniors struggle with hormonal imbalance, especially as melatonin levels decline and inflammation increases with age. That's why walnuts are so powerful. They address both issues simultaneously. Let's break it down. Melatonin in walnuts helps signal your brain to wind down and enter sleep mode, without the crash or dependency of synthetic supplements. Tryptophan fuels serotonin, which stabilizes mood and promotes melatonin production. Omega-3 fatty acids, especially ALA, alpha-linolenic acid, found in walnuts, help reduce inflammation and improve the function of the pineal gland, the very source of melatonin in your brain. Plus, walnuts contain polyphenols and antioxidants, which calm oxidative stress, one of the silent culprits behind disrupted sleep in older adults. Unlike pills, which force the brain to shut down, walnuts support the body's natural rhythm, creating the conditions for sleep, not imposing them. And for people like Harold, who felt trapped between insomnia and side effects, walnuts became a third way, gentle, effective, nourishing, in a world full of quick fixes and pharmaceutical promises. It's easy to forget that nature has always offered quiet solutions, if we're willing to slow down and listen. Walnuts are more than a bedtime snack. They're a symbol of restoration, of trusting your body to heal when you give it what it needs, of choosing nourishment over numbing, of believing that better nights lead to better days. If you've been waking up tired, disconnected, or discouraged, know that change doesn't always arrive in grand gestures. Sometimes it comes in the form of a few small, earthy nuts, rich in wisdom, rich in healing. Tonight, try a handful, not because it's trendy, but because your sleep is sacred, and your peace is worth fighting for, even in the quietest, simplest ways. 5. Chamomile tea, the ancient sleep tonic. For centuries, chamomile tea has been used across cultures to soothe the mind and body. From ancient Egypt to medieval Europe, this gentle herb was revered not just for its flavor, but for its ability to induce calm, reduce anxiety, and promote restful sleep. Now, modern science confirms what tradition has long claimed. chamomile contains a unique antioxidant called apigenin, which binds to benzodiazepine receptors in the brain, the same receptors targeted by anti-anxiety and sleep medications. The result, a natural sedative effect, without the side effects or dependency risks. A 2020 study published in the Journal of Advanced Nursing found that older adults who drank chamomile tea twice daily fell asleep faster, experienced fewer nighttime awakenings, reported greater morning alertness. Chamomile also reduces inflammation, which can disrupt sleep in those with chronic pain, supports digestion, calming the gut and preventing nighttime discomfort, lowers anxiety, which is one of the leading causes of sleep trouble in older adults. It's caffeine-free, gentle on the system, and emotionally comforting. A perfect match for aging bodies seeking balance. Real-life story. Agnes and the return of her evenings. Agnes Hoang, 83, had always cherished her evenings. When she was younger, she'd read novels late into the night or sit by the window listening to soft piano music. But over the years, her nights had become restless. The warmth of nostalgia was replaced with the cold edge of insomnia. "I wasn't sad," she said, "but I was tired of being tired." Her granddaughter, a naturopathic doctor, came to visit one winter and noticed the change. She brewed Agnes a cup of organic chamomile tea with a touch of honey. "Just sip this slowly," she said, "let the day melt away." Agnes did, and that night, for the first time in months, she didn't wake up 3 times. She dreamed of her childhood garden in Dalat, with white daisies blooming and soft rain falling. From then on, chamomile became her evening ritual, not just for sleep but for peace. "It's like drinking quiet," she said with a smile. Now, her bookshelf is full again. So are her dreams. Sleep problems in older adults are rarely just about being tired. They're about unresolved thoughts, aching joints, and digestive discomforts that stack up with time. Chamomile addresses all of them. Its apigenin content provides a natural sedative effect that helps the brain transition from alertness to sleep gently, without disrupting normal sleep cycles. Its anti-inflammatory action soothes muscles, joints, and even the digestive system, which often becomes sensitive with age. Many seniors wake up due to reflux, bloating, or discomfort, and chamomile quietly calms those fires. It also reduces anxiety, which often increases at night when distractions fade and thoughts grow louder. Chamomile doesn't erase your worries, but it quietly softens them, like a hand on the shoulder reminding you, you're safe now. You can rest. Chamomile is also a ritual, and rituals matter, especially in older age when structure, calm, and familiarity are anchors for emotional wellness. Chamomile tea is more than just a beverage. It's an invitation to slow down, to return to your breath, and to reclaim the softness of life that aging sometimes wears away. You've lived through decades of responsibility, urgency, and doing for others. Let chamomile be a reminder that you deserve peace too, not earned through effort, but received in stillness. Every cup is a quiet ceremony, a return to rhythm, to grace, to sleep. So tonight, as the world slows, let the kettle boil, let the steam rise, let the quiet arrive. And as you sip, remember, your rest matters. Your mind deserves calm, your body deserves care, and you deserve sleep. Sleepless nights often feel like a quiet kind of defeat, not loud or dramatic, just deeply draining, and over time, it's easy to wonder whether peaceful sleep is something you've simply outgrown. But the truth is, you haven't. What we've shared today is proof that your body still remembers how to rest. It simply needs the right kind of support. Not from pills or chemicals, but from nature's quiet gifts, the calming sweetness of kiwi, the deep red comfort of tart cherry juice, the soothing softness of a banana, the grounding richness of walnuts, or the gentle warmth of chamomile tea. These aren't just foods, they are signals, whispers to your nervous system, reminders to your soul that it's safe to let go, that it's okay to rest, that you are not too old to sleep deeply, and never too far gone to feel whole again. So tonight, let your bedtime become an act of kindness, not because you've earned it, but because you are human, because you matter, because healing is still possible. You deserve more than just sleep. You deserve true rest, rest that restores, calms, and brings you back to yourself. And that journey can begin, quietly and gently. Tonight, your next chapter begins tonight. At Daily Elder Advice, we believe aging should never feel like fading. It should feel like deepening into rest, into peace, into presence. So tonight, light a candle, slice a kiwi, brew some chamomile, and give yourself the grace to rest. Not because you've earned it through productivity, not because someone told you to, but because you deserve it. Because sleep is not a luxury, it's a sacred act of renewal. And you, dear friend, have more life to live. Let it begin with a full night's rest. If this message spoke to you, we invite you to join our growing community of wisdom seekers. Subscribe to Daily Elder Advice for more science-backed, hard-led content tailored for vibrant aging. Like this video to support our work and help it reach others who need it. Share a comment below. What food will you try first? What's been your greatest sleep struggle? And don't forget to click the bell icon so you never miss another episode made just for you. Because the path to a better tomorrow often begins with how you sleep tonight. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, rest well and take gentle care.